we're not around family. So it's just like, having to tell them something like this over the phone, over FaceTime, and not have their support for them to be here for us was definitely hard, because it's just like, it's just us down here. What's up, real ones? Welcome back to the Relationship Podcast, where we're bringing the real back to relationships.
Yes, sir.
I'm Asha Steele.
And I'm Devin Steele.
And we're so excited that you guys are tuning in today with us.
Yeah, man. We're excited to be back today. As y'all know, it's been a while. We took a long hiatus from the podcast. And if you're following us on either one of our personal social media or Instagrams or the Relationship Instagram, we made an announcement that we were going through something as a family. We didn't really get into details, but we're going to get into details on this episode. But we just felt like it was important for us to take a break so that we can take care of what we were dealing with as a family. So we're just glad to be back, because I know a lot of y'all were wondering what was going on. And I guess this episode you get to find out.
Yeah. So do we have any announcements? Anything you want to say before?
No, I just want to jump in. What I do want to say, because I know this episode you're going to be heavy on it. You're going to do most of the talking. So I just want to get, some of my thoughts out the way. And, for me, it's just crazy because I don't know if it was last episode or 2 episodes ago, but we talked about how crazy of a year 2020 has been, not only for us, but for everybody. How, it started off bad, in the middle it was bad, 3/4 of the way it was bad. And we talked about how we wanted to do everything we could to end 2020 with a bang and really give us that momentum going into the new year so we can reach new goals that we had for ourselves. And it was like, soon as we said that, obstacle just got thrown in our way and was like, let's see y'all try to overcome this. Mm-hmm. And it's been tough. It's been a tough past month or so where we're just trying to process everything that's going on and just trying to find a way to work through it the best way we can. But we still have a chance to try to end 2020 off as best as possible. But we got some things that we got to deal with.
Yeah, you guys. So I guess we'll just get into it.
Yeah.
So if you guys was following our social medias, you probably saw Devin had posted a video first, basically talking briefly about me going into surgery probably like 2 weeks ago, right?
I believe so.
And so 2 weeks, probably going on 3 weeks. So the reason being is we were attempting and trying to have another baby, right?
Right. You know how them quarantine babies go.
We had discussed for quite some time, and I know me for sure, I always wanted to have children back to back, right? I wanted them to, because I have siblings and we're fairly close in age. So I just always dreamed of having children that were close in age, because I think just growing up and having, brothers and sisters that are around the same age, y'all go to school together, playmates, is like a very close-knit type of bond that you have. So we talked about it, and we were just like, you know what, like Devin said, it's quarantine. We don't know when we're going to come out of this. Even like before with us trying to plan for the perfect time, it's like, is there ever really a perfect time? And so we were just like, you know what, let's just go ahead and do it and see what happens.
It didn't quite go that way, but go ahead.
We did have that conversation.
No, it was kind of like what's understood shouldn't have to be said. You stay on, we're supposed to get off, pull out game week. You know how that goes.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the conversation of us having children close in age.
Oh, I thought you was talking about the act of actually conceiving a child.
They don't need to know all of that, okay?
Yeah, because that wasn't talked about.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, you guys. So that's another version that we were not discussing. We were definitely discussing the idea of having children close in age, right?
Right, my bad.
So, yeah, so like you said, all of the things that, happened for us to make the magic happen, to have another baby happened. And, I want to say it was maybe like the end of August, where I noticed it was my last cycle. So September came, and, I was counting the days, waiting, not really thinking too much about it, because it was just like, okay, I know from before we had, trouble with trying to conceive, and the process of certain days of me ovulating, trying to figure that all out. So we didn't really plan as far as like the actual ovulation schedule and all of that. It was just like, if it happens, it happens, pretty much. But I didn't think that it would happen so quickly, right? So in my mind, I wasn't thinking like, okay, I'm going to be pregnant, but I didn't think about it either way. And so we get to the end of September, and I'm like, where is Miss Lady at? Where's she at? Because I haven't seen her. It's been a month. It's about this time. I'm past due for my cycle. So that's when I started to really question. I feel like you probably started to even question it more, because my hormones were like raging. I was just like going through it. Yeah. And so I was just like, you know what? I think I need to take a test, right? Mm-hmm. I kept saying that. And Devin went out and like purchased the test unbeknownst to me. Like, he was just like, we're going to figure this out, because I need to know what's the reason.
I had a feeling that she was already, because you don't do what we be doing and then you don't get pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, that is the result of the actions we were taking in quarantine. Yeah. Right? So I just needed to know for myself if she was. I know that she was questioning it, so I was just like, let me just go to the store and get some tests, and let's just find out.
Yeah. So we take a test, and I believe it was September 29th, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea.
September 29th. I took the test, and it said that I was pregnant. And it was, when I read the test, I was very emotional, because
burst
it was
out in
like,
tears and everything.
I was like laughing, and then I started crying, because it was like, is this really serious? Like, before, when we tried to conceive Aria, it was like such a process. And so just thinking in my mind like, oh, it could possibly be, but not thinking like it is. Right. And then reading the test and it being like, oh, you're pregnant. I was just like, wow, like that didn't take much. Yeah. And so
now my soldiers was definitely marching this time. Goodness. So I thought.
And so I was excited and emotional, and we went like automatically into, how are we going to tell our family? How are we going to tell our friends?
Yeah, because it's the holiday season. You know, last time when we let our family know that Asha was pregnant with Arya, it was around Valentine's Day. So we gave our family, different presents to reveal to them what was going on. So, with Christmas coming up, we automatically just started planning that we wanted to do something similar for our family, to let them know that they was having another grandchild. So it was really an exciting moment in this household. Just even starting to rub on the belly and talk to the belly and stuff like that. So it was really exciting.
Yeah. So pretty much after that, I was just like, I immediately called to schedule an appointment with my doctor, because I just was the way of how everything is with COVID, and not knowing the process of being pregnant and how all of that went. I was just like, let me just call and figure out what I need to do, because I'm sure everything is completely different now because of the pandemic. So I called, scheduled appointments, and they scheduled it for, I believe, like it was like maybe like a Friday or something that I called. So they scheduled it for that following Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. So I was excited. I was anxious to go. I was a little bit upset, I'm not going to lie, because like I said, it is a pandemic. So I know that Devin wasn't going to be able to go to the appointment with me, because, you have to as an adult, you have to go to the hospital by yourself. So that
Which
was,
sucks.
yeah.
Which sucked because, for me, it was like I was replaying in my mind, like what happened with Ari, where we went to the hospital and, the doctor comes in with the ultrasound and then you get to see the baby
Yeah.
for the first time. So I was kind of upset that I wasn't able to go to the first doctor's appointment to, share that moment with Asha. But I basically just had to suck it up because it's like these are the times that we're living in right now. I'm not the only dad who hasn't been able, to go to doctor's appointments. Asha's not the only expecting mom who had to go through this process on her own. So it's just like I had to suck it up and just try to make the best of the moment. And so what we decided to do was I was just going to FaceTime and, be there for Asha, be there to see, our little one for the first time on the ultrasound.
So, appointment day comes and I'm like really nervous because, like I said, it's completely new. The whole process of checking into the hospital and waiting, everything like that. It was like so different. And the hospital I went to is fairly like a large facility. So I'm used to, from being in there before, seeing like all the moms in there with their spouse or family member, whoever. And it was just like, just moms in there expecting moms just by themselves. And I was just like, wow, like this is completely different. So it was very upsetting, especially going in and thinking like, oh, I'm pregnant and finding out, these results and everything by myself. But it was just like, you know what? It's okay. They're all doing it. We're all doing it. It's unfortunate circumstances, but it's fine. We'll get through it. And so I go back to the doctor's office. Everything's like, routine. Get ready for her to come in to do the ultrasound. She comes in and she's doing the ultrasound. And then she like shows, of course, she's showing me the ultrasound. And she says it's like the sac is there, but it's empty. Yeah. And so at the time, Devin was on FaceTime because I had called him. And I'm just like what? Like, okay, what does this mean? Yeah. And so she had explained that it could be a possible embryonic pregnancy, which is basically when you have a gestational sac, but there's no embryo that's developed. Or it could have just been, early, right? It could have been I came in and I'm just like a few weeks and they can't see the embryo yet. So
I automatically thought it was the latter. Yeah. I thought, we just found out that she was pregnant. Asha said this was like a little over a month of since her last cycle. So I thought it was just went to the doctors too early. Because I know the doctor's exact words. I know you said some embryonic. I don't know what you just said. But I remember her saying miscarriage. And I was like, man, I hope it's not that. Yeah. Because like I said, we had already been like heavily invested mentally. Just with the excitement and planning for, how we were going to tell, our parents. And like I said, rubbing the stomach, talking to the stomach, speaking my little boy into existence. Wow. So I was just praying that it was the latter, because you know how sometimes you get negative news like that, like your mind just starts to wander, right? And I always try to bring myself back to center and just focus on the positive things and look at the positive outcomes. So it was tough to hear, but like I said, I was hoping that, it was the latter, that we went there too early.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, with the technical term being embryonic pregnancy, she basically has said that it will result in a miscarriage because the baby wasn't developing. And so, like you said, I feel like we are very polar opposites in that particular section, because he went straight to thinking, oh, okay, it's early. And my mind went straight to thinking something's wrong. I'm going to have a miscarriage. Like the second half that she said, I completely tuned out because I'm just like, what is going on? Like I never had to experience this before, thinking the worst of the worst. And so she asked me, was I okay? And I'm just like, yeah, but to be honest, like I was breaking down. I could not wait to get out of that hospital. because, like I said, I was there alone, even though Devin was on the phone. And so it's just like I didn't have really a support system there with me. And to receive the news, it was just like very emotional.
Right.
And so I left out the hospital, driving home, emotional, upset, my mind all over the place. And, I get home, we have a discussion. She told me that she wanted me to come back in another week, basically, because she wanted to make sure that it wasn't just me being early. And if I waited a week or so, that, the baby would have been able to develop by then and they can see it on the ultrasound. So I waited a week, scheduled another appointment. She actually had blood work done, or I had to go get blood work done before my other appointment. And then when the blood work came in, she had said my hormones were very high for where I was at. So basically, if I was pregnant, it would be like I was way further along because of how high my hormones were.
Yeah, she was saying that she should have been able to see something because of how high your levels were.
Yeah, and also because I was starting to really feel symptoms like how I felt with Aria, with just being nauseous, like smells, certain foods, the way it tastes, just making me like sick. It was like I was starting to really feel all of that like heavy. And I'm just like, I didn't experience any of this until like several weeks after finding out that I was pregnant with Aria.
Right.
And when we found out, when I went to my first doctor's appointment, I want to say I was like 7 weeks. And so several weeks after that is when I started to really feel all the symptoms. So it was very odd to me that I started to feel them so soon. But I guess it was, like you said, the result of my hormone levels being so high, and that's what was causing all of that. So because of that, she wanted me to come in. She wanted to check, just to make sure everything was going how it was supposed to be going. So go back to my doctor's appointment. With this appointment, I had to go and see a radiologist. They wanted to like really check my ultrasound, so it was like more detailed, which was very awkward because my doctor wasn't performing it. It was another physician, so they didn't tell me anything, right? And once again, he was on FaceTime with me, so I'm like super nervous and stressed out because it's like a week of waiting after hearing that news. After hearing about my blood work, and it's just like my mind is still racing, and I go into this appointment thinking that I'm going to have some type of clarity or be able to know something at that moment.
Right.
And just to lay there and get the ultrasound done, and then them and you ask the question like, oh, is there anything that's changed? And they're like, oh, we can't give you any results. We have to wait for your doctors to look at it and they'll contact you. And I'm just like, are you serious? Like, that was just like even more of a blow because I was just so stressed out. Like, y'all have no idea. But I was just like, okay, waited. I want to say the doctor probably called me the next day.
Before that, like Asha was saying, like, she said that like we're polar opposites. Like my mind goes to the positives, hers goes to the negatives. So you can just imagine after the second appointment, where she can't get a definitive answer from the radiologist, her mind is now going crazy because now she has to wait for the doctors again.
Yeah.
So although I understand that we are polar opposites, like I think positive. I'm the type of person in that will, like, try to focus on the positive, but also plan in case the negative happens. Right. So that day after, she had that radiology appointment, we had to sit down and have a conversation. I'm like, wholeheartedly, I'm praying that we just showed up too early.
Yeah.
And it's typical protocol for the radiologist to not be able to tell you anything, that the doctor has to sit down and tell you. So, like I said, my main focus is on, we went there too early. When you get the results back from the radiologist and your doctor is going to show that there's a baby there, but in case there's not, right? Just in case we don't get the news that we want, like, what do you need from me as a husband?
Yeah.
Because what I understood was at the end of the day, we don't always get what we pray for.
Yeah.
Right? And in those moments, you got to ask yourself what you're going to do when God says no to your prayers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you going to react? And I think a lot of people, they don't plan for adversity until they're hit with adversity. Whereas I really like to plan ahead of time so we know how to navigate. Like, if life knocks us down, this is the plan on how we're going to get back up. So we had to, have that conversation of what if. And, what Asha told me is that I just need you to be there for me. Like, we don't need to argue about no petty stuff. Like, everything else that's going on, it don't matter. Like, our main focus has to be on this, and I need you to be there to support me as much as possible. So we had that plan put together before we even found out the results of what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was very necessary for us to have that conversation, like a very realistic conversation, because we knew that it was going to either go one or two ways, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like we had to just be real with ourselves. And I know for me, to be completely honest, like, it was just like you said, like I said, how I felt like we were polar opposites, and you just took on, the mentality of just being positive and thinking like, maybe it's this, maybe it is just, we're just too early. But just honestly, something deep down inside of me, something just was unsettling. Like, something felt wrong. And I was just like, as much as I tried to think positive, as much as I tried to, be positive and not like let things get the best of me and pray, it was just like something felt wrong. And I don't know if it was just me leaning on what was told, but it just, something in my soul and my spirit was just like, something is not right. And so I feel like that was what was really taking over me. It was because it's just like, I know, just to hear those words, and mind you, at the appointment where she had said something to us initially,
Mm-hmm.
she had mentioned molar pregnancy, right?
Yeah. We forgot to talk about that.
So that was another big thing, because not to get all like into the technical terminology of molar pregnancy, but basically it is where, you can have your gestational sac be empty, whereas there's no embryo, or there can be an embryo there, but it's also a tumor, which they say is non-cancerous, that is within your gestational sac. So she was saying that she wanted to test to see if that was what I was experiencing, because of my symptoms, because of my hormone levels and everything like that. And so I automatically, whenever something's going on, which I think is completely wrong, but I do it anyway. Whenever I hear something and I don't know what it is, and the doctor says something, I go straight to Google and try to diagnose what's going on, right? And
I think you're not the only one to do that. I think we all do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't see what you want to see.
Yeah. And so when she said that and I started reading it, that stressed me out like 1,000 times more, because it was just like reading about it and the severity of it, and just, they were talking about a tumor and having to remove it, and then possibly down the line going through chemo treatments. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, something that was supposed to be so exciting for us, with us wanting to have a baby and getting the news that we were pregnant and going into the doctors, and all of this had just transpired. And I'm just like, God, like, why? Like, why? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And it was just like, just reading everything I just had, and you had told me to, like, stop Googling stuff. Like, just wait for the doctor to tell you what's going on, because that was just adding so much more stress to me.
Yeah, and one of the main reasons why I said that, it's obviously I did that when Leah was diagnosed with cancer, and a lot of stuff that I read online, it makes you feel defeated before the battle even really begins.
Mm-hmm.
But also I know that because of everything that was going on, you were doing a lot of blaming yourself, wondering if something was wrong with you. And when I was doing the research on the molar pregnancy, I was seeing, exactly what it was. And I was seeing that, if I can remember it correctly, like in order to conceive a child, you need to have 46 chromosomes, 23 from the dad and 23 from the mom. And with the molar pregnancy, the dad's 23 chromosomes goes into the eggs, but it's missing the mom's 23. So then those 23 from the dad double because nature knows you need 46. And that's how you end up having a molar pregnancy. So I didn't want Asha to read that, and then it just it basically just supports the thoughts that she already had, that it was her fault. So when I started seeing that, I was just trying to get her to not, go online, because I didn't want her to fill her head with this type of stuff that I was seeing online. But it's kind of hard, when somebody's trying to figure out what's going on to stop them from, reading some of the crazy stuff that's out there on the web.
Yeah. So basically, after the doctor contacted me after my second appointment, I had got the results, and she said it was the same thing. So then she called me, and I went into the hospital. Like, I literally was at the hospital probably like twice a week, back to back, for like 3 weeks. And so she was like, the ultrasound showed the same thing. I had the gestational sac, but it was empty. And so she gave me my options of that I was going to either miscarry naturally, or they can give me medication to help me miscarry, or I can have a DNC surgery to remove everything. And so once she gave me all of that information, Devin and I discussed it. I think we discussed it over the weekend. We kind of researched it to see what was the best option to go about, because I was very much opposed to surgery. Surgery don't sit well with me. Going under a knife is just like, if I don't have to, I don't want to, but I understood if I needed to, I would.
And I was more leaning to the natural. But at the end of the day, I understood that it wasn't my decision, that it's Asha's body. And she said something to me that really opened up my eyes. I'm like, if your body naturally goes through this process, then maybe we should do it natural, because, just putting different medicines in you, it's just a risk that comes with it. But Asha said something that really opened up my eyes, and it's like, it's hard to have these symptoms as if you have a baby growing in your body, and you know that there's no baby growing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're just sitting around waiting for it to pass.
Yeah.
And you don't know when it's going to happen. So to sit there with that thought in your mind that, every time you go to the bathroom, then it might be the time.
Yeah.
That's tough to sit with. And when she said that, I knew that doing it naturally was, off the table, because I couldn't imagine being a woman and have to, go through something like that. That's extremely tough on you, mentally and physically. But like Asha said, she was opposed to the surgery, but at the end we felt like it was the best decision for Asha, and she'll share a little bit why that was the best decision.
Yeah. I was definitely not wanting to do the natural, like you said, just because, like, the idea of everything I was experiencing, right? It's like when you get the test results back that you are actually pregnant, you automatically like feel that connection, right? You automatically, your body, your mind, it just does something to you, and you're just like excited. Like, it's like you're, even before the baby is developed, it's like you have this, like, or at least myself, you have this like connection that you feel like, okay, I have my child that's grown within me. And it's just like feeling those symptoms and feeling everything that I experienced from previously in my pregnancy. It was just like, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to go through and actually conceive that child and birth that child, it was just like very daunting, and it was very hard to just like continue. So when she told me that yes, this is what it is, you know, the baby's not going to develop, you're going to miscarry, it was just like I didn't want to continue on dealing with the mental anguish that I had, the emotional stress, the sickness. Like I was just like I want this to be over because it's just too much. And so I was opposed to surgery. I was thinking about the route of medication. But then again, I'm just like, I don't know what's about to happen. I don't want to be at home and just going through it. So it was just like, you know what? And then the doctor actually, she explained to me, Devin was on the phone, that going the route of surgery, she recommended because she would be able to test the tissue from my placenta and see what was the cause, to see if it was an actual molar pregnancy, and if it isn't, then to see what caused for me to, you know, not actually conceive the baby. And
what cause for us, because I don't want you to put the blame on you.
Well, yes, what caused for it to just basically be the gestational sac and not the embryo. And so I was just like, we agreed that was the best option because we hadn't experienced this before. We wanted to know what was going on. Why is this occurring? And so I went in and said, we're going to do the DNC. And so then we contacted family members, basically our parents, and told them, which was hard in itself because, like you said,
they didn't even know.
They didn't know, right? And so to hear that, oh, we were pregnant, which was so awkward because it's just like you go in and say, oh, we were trying to conceive, we were pregnant, and then they get that moment of excitement like, oh, you guys are pregnant, but then it's followed up with, but the baby's not going to be able, you know, we're going to experience a miscarriage. So that in itself was hard because it was just like a whirlwind of emotions. We're not around family. So it's just like, having to tell them something like this over the phone, over FaceTime, and not have their support for them to be here for us was definitely hard because it's just us down here. And so that was difficult in itself. And like I said, I always been very opposed to surgery. I think the worst. So I was very afraid going into surgery. Like, I don't know what's going to happen and nobody's going to be around. My husband can't come. I'm going to be there by myself. So I was just an emotional wreck. But I had to pull it together and just be like, you know what? This is what we got to do. We prayed about it. Our family prayed. And it was just like, you know, we've been through a lot in life, in our relationship. So it was just like, as hard as it is, you know, we know that better days are to come. We can get through this. So we just had to lean on that, lean on each other, lean on our faith. And so I went in for the surgery.
That was tough. I just wanted to jump in real quick. Like, Asha shared, like, she was an emotional wreck. And I was kind of like the opposite. And it's not because I'm like some super strong guy that can just handle a bunch of adversity, but I know a lot of the guys will feel me on this. I don't know if it's because I'm a man or it's because I've been through a lot in my life where it's just like, a lot of the times I don't express emotions the right way. Like it hurt a lot, and I think that a lot of times when I go through stuff, the first thing I do is like I shut off my emotions. Like I become emotionless because it's just like you get to a point where you ask yourself, like, all right, God, like I know I'm strong. Like I know I done been through storms before, but it's like every time that I get up after life knocks me down, I get knocked down again. And then you just learn to become numb to the pain of the world because you're just so used to going through painful situations.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know if me being a man plays a part in that or just me being somebody who has been through a hell of a lot of stuff in his life. And to watch Asha go through this, to know that she has to go to the hospital alone to have the surgery and I can't be there to support her, be there to hold her hand, be there to let her know it was going to be okay. Instead, I had to FaceTime her, right, and try to be the support system. It's like it resurfaced a lot of the pain that I went through with Leah when I was away from her and I had to FaceTime her and I couldn't be there. And it's like when you're a man and you can't be there, like, because we always try to be a fixer, but now we can't even be the shoulder to lean on because we can't even go. It was tough to deal with. But I had to have a talk with myself because I couldn't allow that to get in the way of me trying to be there for Asha. Because I understood although I was going through a lot of pain, I know the pain that she was experiencing was 10, 20 times worse than what I was going through. And this is why I believe that. Like, I feel like as a man, you don't really build that strong connection, that strong bond with the kid until you're able to hold him for the first time. Like the first time I held Leah, like the first time I held Ari, it's like when you hold your child in your arms for the first time, it's like that connection. Like I can't even explain it. Not saying that you don't build a connection or a bond at all because you spend time talking to the stomach. Like I said, I was doing, you spend time rubbing the stomach, like trying to build that connection. But with a woman, when you conceive, like you said, your body starts to change. Like it's like an automatic connection you're going through because your whole lifestyle changes for that baby. You feel that baby in you. Everything you do from the moment you conceive, you wake up, you know that it's going to impact that baby. And it's just like, it's different. Like y'all are able to build that connection right away. So I knew that although I was hurting, I knew Asha was hurting more. And I had to be able to not necessarily put my emotions to the side, but stop myself from emotionally shutting down because I knew that Asha needed me to be there emotionally for her. And it's a tough situation. It's a tough world we're living in right now with COVID where, you know, you can't be there for your loved ones in the hospital. Not even necessarily just like what we were going through, but there's women out there having children on their own. There's people who have family members who are, you know, contracted COVID and on ventilators and they might not make it and you can't be in there in the hospital for them. It's just like, it's tough. It's a tough situation to deal with, but it's like we all trying to find a way to work through it. But that was tough having to leave the hospital because it's like I couldn't even sit on the first floor. There was no waiting room because we had Aria. Like Asha said, we down here with our family. And right now you can't really interact with your family. So it's not like you can get a sitter or something like that. Like you got to do what you got to do. But having to leave Asha in the hospital, understanding how scared she was, that drive home just wasn't good.
Yeah. It was tough. But I had the support of you, even if it was on FaceTime. support of my parents, my siblings. And so, went in for surgery. Which it didn't take that long, to be honest. Like I said, I was nervous as I don't know what, but it was just like, it's going to happen. This is what we have to do. The doctor explained everything that needed to be done, how it was going to go, the procedure. I think it took about maybe like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So they started, I want to say around like 10:30. I woke up like
as soon as you woke up, come get me.
I woke up, it was like maybe like 12, and like you said, when she saw that, the nurse saw I woke up and she brought my stuff in, I'm like, where's my phone? Pick me up. I'm ready to go. Like, they usually like, oh, you gotta, use the bathroom first. You gotta do
Drink
all
an
this
apple
stuff. Drink this, eat this, so we know that you're good to go. And I'm like, no, come get me, like now. And so he came and picked me up. I wasn't in pain because, of course, I had medicine that they had gave me for the pain. But I got home, and I want to say the next day, the first day I wasn't in too much pain. They prescribed me like ibuprofen or something, and they told me that I would have symptoms of like cramping as if you're on your cycle, with like bleeding, because of course the DNC surgery, they're basically scraping out all the tissue, and everything from inside of you, and so whatever else is going to pass through is going to pass like as if you were on your cycle, and then you should go back to your regular cycle within, I want to say, a month or so. And so I went home, couldn't really do much, rested. But the next day I felt normal, right?
Yeah.
I didn't feel too bad the next day. I was up, and this was my fault, and I probably did too much because I'm up like in the kitchen, cleaning up, trying to move stuff, do all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this wasn't too bad. Like, I feel good. I take my little ibuprofen if I feel a little bit of cramping before it gets too serious.
Mind you, I wouldn't even have let her do that. I think I was out
I think
working out or something, and I came back and I saw her like, you was in the garage
I'm
moving
like,
stuff,
yeah.
And I'm like, yo, what are you doing?
I done put Ari to sleep. She down for her nap. I'm like, okay, she having her nap. Let me get back to my regular schedule program and do what I need to do. No days off. We had the surgery. Let's go.
Yeah,
Mind you, they tell you not to do too much the first couple days.
But a lot of people try to do stuff and not necessarily because they can, but to try to get their mind off of what they were going through.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came home and I saw her in the garage just like moving things around, I knew that she was doing it to try to forget about what was going on. Mm-hmm. But I knew it could have a negative impact on her. So I made her stop what she was doing and go back to bed, because I knew that although you may feel good right now, the moment you allow yourself to sit down, you're going to feel the impact of what, you were going through, both, mentally and physically.
Yeah. And then it was just like you said, the times where, because when you're sitting in the bed and you're confined to a room, you can't really do too much. That's when your thoughts start to consume you, right? And like I said, I had been an emotional wreck. So it was just like, I would be in the room and I would just like randomly start crying, like just burst out into tears. I could just be looking at Arya while she's sleeping and just start crying. Like, it was just like everything was triggering me. And so it was like me trying to just like get back into my schedule, just like keep my mind off of things, because I didn't want to just sit there and let my thoughts consume me and just be emotional. But from me doing that and trying to do too much, honey, the next day, not even the next day, that evening, the pain hit me like no other. Okay? I was in so much pain. Like, excruciating pain, like knives stabbing me in my abdomen, like my back, my abdomen, my upper pelvic, like everything was in pain.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I could not move. I just felt like so like nauseous. And it was like the pain from that was making my head hurt. It was making me feel like dizzy and sick. And I'm just like, I can't do this. And so the next couple of days, it was like the same thing. Like I would take my medicine, my ibuprofen every 6 hours, which wasn't really doing nothing. But I would still feel this excruciating pain. And I'm just like, okay, I know they say that you're supposed to have cramping. I don't really have too bad of cramping when I'm on my cycle. So I know, okay, this might be what some people experience, but this was through the roof. And I was just like, what in the world? Like, I could not do anything. And it was so frustrating because it was like, I felt like I was letting not only myself down, but like you down and really Aria down, because I know that she's very much dependent on me. And I had a breakdown because I don't want to keep getting emotional, but it's just like I'm still nursing her. We're trying to get her out of co-sleeping, but she's still co-sleeping. And so she's still very much dependent on me. And so she wanted to be with mommy all the time. She wanted me to, feed her, nurse her. And I was in so much pain, like just nursing her was just painful for me. And so she was like crying. I know one night she was hysterically crying. Devin took her out the room, like she was in there. And I'm like,
going through it.
I was going through it because I'm on the floor, on the bed, moving around, trying to find a position, praising, talking to God, crying, like, Lord, please get me through this. Please, God, please. And like Aria's crying because she wants me to feed her. She wants to be next to me. Devin just sitting here like, what the hell is going on? What can I do? Like, he's just sitting here blank face. And I'm just like, can you just take her, go into the living room? I just need a minute. And like just hearing her like screaming and hollering, getting all upset, and knowing like I couldn't do anything for her because of how much pain I was in. I was just like, I just felt like I was letting her down. But what I can say is I feel like you really stepped up, and definitely from the conversation that we had was supporting me, just taking on all the roles that I had played, what I needed to do, taking care of the house, the kids. It was just like you was a huge support system to me. Not that I wouldn't expect you to be, but yeah. I really appreciated you because you did a lot in just making sure that I was at ease as much as you could,
Yeah. And like I told you before, it was tough because I would see you going through the pain. Like she said, she was on the ground, like screaming out to God, like, God, please help me take this pain away. And it's just like, yo, as a man, it ate me up knowing that I could not do anything for you.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even feel like some moments where I knew you was in pain. It's like sometimes when you in pain, you don't even want to be touched.
Yeah.
You don't want to even be bothered. So it's like sometimes I would just sit there and just let her know, like, I'm here if you need me. Mm-hmm. Or other times I would just, go out the room and take Aria out the room because it would hurt too much to see you in that much pain and just not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like it was just tough, man. Like I just wasn't expecting to have to deal with something like this.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like I said, we went from having great news to having just horrible news within a matter of weeks. It was very stressful. It was even like us just discussing like if this was the case, if the worst was the case, how would we feel about moving forward with conceiving and trying to have children in the future? Like what would be the steps, and how would we process that? I know you had asked me like what I want to go into trying again having experienced this whole process. Um, and like I said to Devin, it was just like, as much as this was painful to me, as much as it, emotionally drained me, it was just like, I understand that I don't have control over everything that happens in life. And, everybody says, God, he has control over all things. If it's his will, it's his way. So it's just like, I definitely didn't want to go in thinking like, oh, this happened, I don't want to ever try to have children again, or this deterred me and I'm so scared. It's just like, no, this is a process, an unfortunate process that we had to experience. But I learned a lot about myself. We learned a lot about each other, and just like having to go through these obstacles in life, in our relationship and challenges, and building our foundation even more, building our relationship even more, to be there to support each other through this. That's life. That's what life is. That's what a relationship is. Yeah. And so
I think that's the most beautiful thing about a relationship, is that one thing for certain is that you're always going to have obstacles to overcome in life. But when you can, go through those obstacles with somebody else, it makes it easier. Because a lot of times we fight battles that nobody knows about. A lot of times we have to go through life feeling like we're all alone, feeling like we're the only ones that are experiencing the adversity that we're experiencing. But when you have a life partner, when you're in a relationship, just being able to go through something and know that you're not alone, know that you have somebody that's going to be there for you. Know that it's okay to have days where you feel weak, because your partner is going to be strong for the both of y'all. It helps you be able to endure those tough times, man. It's just like I said, I just think that that's so beautiful about a relationship, is that you can really go through life's ups and downs with somebody else and never feel like you're alone.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But I know this process has definitely, it took a toll on us.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on too, because in case people, don't follow me on my Instagram, I still just wanted to share this message, because it really spoke to me when I thought about it. Because like Asha said, and like I said in the beginning of the podcast, it was like just getting knocked down. Right? And you start to see, like, a lot of times when you go through things in life, you start to see it spill into other areas of your life. And I started to notice that with us. Like, we just didn't want to do nothing. It was just such a blow that it's just like, man, we're already dealing with the stresses of COVID, right? We're dealing with the stress of what it's been able to do as far as, working, bringing in money, trying to be a parent and a teacher at the same time, help out the teachers. Like, it was just a lot of stress, and it was just like it was just piling on. And I saw this just like spilling into other areas of our life. And I just had another conversation with Asha, telling her like, yo, we can't allow this to happen. Like, I get like what we're going through right now, with having the embryonic pregnancy. It's tough. It hurts. It's hard. But we can't allow what's, bad in one area of our life to then make every other area of our life bad.
Yeah.
Right. And on my Instagram, I gave the analogy of the Titanic. Right. Like, everybody knows what the Titanic was, the unsinkable ship that ended up sinking. And a lot of people believe that the Titanic sank because it hit an iceberg. But the real reason why the Titanic sank is because it had, I believe, 16 different watertight compartments on the bottom of the boat. And if the Titanic ever, flooded, if it was able to keep the water into 4 compartments of the watertight compartment, then the boat would stay afloat, the ship would stay afloat. But the problem was it allowed it to spill into 2 more compartments for a total of 6 compartments, and it ended up sinking. And I feel like a lot of times in life, we get hit by icebergs, right? We get hit by things in life, and we allow what happens in one area of our life to really spill into other areas of our life. And we end up drowning. Like, maybe you're going through something at work because of everything that's going in COVID. Like everything's not all right at work, but then you end up bringing that home to your marriage, right? Or maybe everything's not going right in your marriage and you take it out on your kids, you take it out on your friends, you allow it to spill into other areas of your life, and you wonder why you feel like you're drowning.
Mm-hmm.
We had to learn how to compartmentalize our pain, to compartmentalize our struggle. And it's not, when I say compartmentalize, I don't mean to put it somewhere and forget about it. But understand, just because you're going through something in one area of your life, don't allow it to make you forget about the blessings that you have in all other areas of your life, because that'll keep you going, feeling like you have stuff to live for, feeling like you have stuff to work towards, and understanding, okay, things may be bad in one area of my life, but we're going to get through this together. Whether you single or you're alone, you're going to get through this, right? And you're going to fix it. But don't allow things that are happening in one area of life to just completely sink you, because that's what we were allowing to happen to us early on when we got the news, but we had to get ourselves out of that.
Yeah. So
you didn't tell them about the results. I forgot before we.
Yeah. So to basically sum everything up, so we waited another long week or so before we got the results back, because they have to do their due diligence. And so the doctor contacted me to let us know that it was not a molar pregnancy, which was very stress relieving. But we did. So while I was there at the hospital, she gave me the option of, getting testing done to see if it was the molar pregnancy, of course, but to also see if there was any abnormal, genetic
abnormalities.
Abnormalities. Yeah. So she wanted to, see if I wanted to do genetic testing and see if anything was abnormal. And so I was first thinking like, I don't know, Devin wasn't there, so I couldn't consult with him, and I was literally about to go back to surgery. So I was just like, you know what, let me just do it, because I just want to have a clear mind. I don't want to just go in and think, oh, dang, I should have done this and I can't, you know what I mean? So I don't know what's going on with my body. I don't know why this is happening. So I told her, go ahead and do it. Not thinking that it was, because even she had said that she wouldn't necessarily think that it was, because I had ARIA. She was my doctor that when I had ARIA. And so she was like, you had a healthy baby before, so I wouldn't think that would be the case. But just to be on the safe side, if you want, we can test. And so I said, I wanted to. So she gave me the results back. It wasn't a molar pregnancy, but from the cell tissue that they were testing, it said that there were possibly some genetic abnormalities. Yes. And I was very stunned when I found that out, because I'm just like, another thing, God. Like, we get the news that, thank God, and like we actually, and you said we had to sit in a moment, because a lot of times when you're stressed out and you get the good news that it's something is not, but then something else comes out, it's just like you don't even thank God, or you don't even just take a appreciation for that moment that is not what it was, right?
Yeah.
So it was just like we had to sit in that moment just to be thankful enough that, what, it isn't the molar pregnancy. We don't have to go that route of,
possible
having to worry about removing the tumor and if it had spread, and then chemo and all of this other stuff. So that was relief. So we had to just be thankful for that. And it's just like, we're still right now waiting to hear back about the genetic testing and see what all is the results of that. So still kind of living on the cusp, on the edge of my seat, trying to figure out what and why all of this is going on. But, it's just like I'm just trying to remain hopeful and just pray and just allow God to take control of everything that's going on, And even with receiving those results, we had a discussion about it. It's just like, if we know that it could possibly be something that, is genetically abnormal with us trying to conceive in the future, how will we feel about that? And it's just like, I don't want to think too far ahead. Like I said, we are constantly on our faith walk and trying to just stay grounded and allow God to just do what he does. And so it's just like, I don't want to let my thoughts and my ways and my mindset consume me and make me feel any type of way. And I know if it's God's will for us to have a child in the future, whether there be anything genetically wrong or not, like, that is what will happen, right? And we would deal and cross that path, you know, when the time comes. God willing, we would have a healthy baby boy or girl, but we know what we're up against. And so I'm just praying that everything goes well. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at, right?
Yeah. Like I said, we get the results back, we'll just deal with it. It's not the first time we've been through something tough as a family. It's not the last time we're going to go through something as a family. So we just thank y'all for your patience, because we know we left y'all kind of out the loop with everything that was going on, but it was tough to talk about, and we wanted to make sure that our house was in order, you know, before we shared the news. So we definitely thank y'all for the patience and, you know, for your prayers, because then when we did speak out about what we were going through, you know, a lot of y'all reached out to us and, you know, let us know that we've been there supporting y'all, uplifting y'all, and that it was our time to, it was your time to reciprocate that energy and that support. So we appreciate y'all. We'll keep y'all up to date to what's going on.
And I also wanted to say, sorry, not to cut you off, but I just wanted to say
you meant to cut me off because you cut me off, but it's cool.
But we felt like we were kind of hesitant with even discussing this because, you know, we had a whole schedule, or try to at least have a schedule of what we discuss on the podcast, right? And so after talking and kind of conversing with each other, we watched a few videos on YouTube, but it wasn't much, right? And I felt like it was very important for us to discuss this, because it's probably a lot of women that are out there that are experiencing this. And I saw one video that we watched, which was very hard to find, right? And she was discussing molar pregnancy and just talking about the lack of not having any, you know, videos or anyone who had experienced it to, you know, help her or support her. And I was just like, you know, it's very important for us to touch on this because we do have a huge following, with it being male and female, and who knows who may be out there who has experienced this, who may be going through this, that can relate to, not only for us to help y'all, but for maybe y'all to help us, you know, because we're still going through the process of trying to figure this out. So that's why it's important for us to share, and us making this podcast is us being vulnerable and sharing the real of our relationship and everything we're going through. So like you said, we're asking for y'all prayers, but if y'all do have or have experience or know anything about this, it will be greatly appreciated for y'all to share that with us, because this is something that is new to us that we're experiencing, and just the advice and the prayers and the support is definitely needed at this time.
So share your stories with us. You can either go to our Instagram, Relationships Podcast, or you can send us an email at questions@realationshipspodcast.com. Like Asha said, we'll love to hear some of your stories so we can, you know, get a better understanding of how to, you know, navigate these uncharted waters.
So until next time, you guys, keep it real.
Yes, sir.